Well, here we are, quite the destined ship with quite a destined journey. And pretty important cargo, as you can see with the boots, because this is me currently taking the biggest trip yet. Because these three cocky seamen have come all this way to slay a dragon. But because of this being RuneScape, you're only allowed to do so after running through another maze with an endless amount of doors. And with that, I finally welcome you back. It has once again been a while. I feel like I'm saying that as much as I say the word doors in the last few months. Definitely way too much. So in the hopes of finally putting an end to all of this nonsense, let's better get going, shall we? As after all, the maze is the only thing left because we technically have a captain already. He's just waiting quite a while for me to get all of this stuff done. Kinda like some others around here, no? So let's get prepared. First of all, I drop off all the correct answers that the door somehow wouldn't accept, where I'm still a little confused, but at least that's behind me. And with a almost done map, a key to the third piece, my trusty GoPro, and as per usual, all my gold, which has served me reasonably well so far, so who knows, we might need it again this time around. I'm making my way over to a place that already has the word maze in the name, being well aware that this might take some time again. Also, quick note maybe, I've seen all the comments of the people that get heart attacks every time I ran around with all this gold. We'll get to that soon. But first, I use the key on the door that allows me to enter a room where once again I have not the slightest idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. Because this time around I just kinda grabbed my stuff and got going, because let's be real, all of my plans so far have failed miserably and me just doing random things has always been more successful. So yeah, imagine you really have no prior knowledge to this game. You are now in this room. There is some doors with other colors, there is rats, there's a shitload of these cabinets filled with more rats. They're all dead, by the way. And it has been quite a while, but State of Confusion is officially back. Out of boredom, you pretty much just click everything. I mean, that usually works. But overall, the situation is kind of exactly how I envisioned it. I had no idea what I got into before, and I have just as much idea what I'm into right now. And as much as that sounds like a confused teenager, I don't have the luxury of just making up a new gender and fixing it that way. I actually have to find a real solution to a real problem in a video game. Okay, it's the exact same thing. What follows is that the confused me is pretty much just exploring everything, because how would I know what works for me if I'm not just trying a bunch of stuff, no? Basically, you never really know who might be coming out of the closet, and it is actually just further rats, and they're still dead. And I took that as a sign, and mixed in with a little bit of frustration and possibly a hint of boredom, I started clicking rats because that was the only thing that actually gave me some dopamine hit. Because once you've been to every room, examined every single thing in here, and once it's very obvious that one of these three red doors is clearly the answer, but you being unable to obtain said answer, it makes the lack of happy chemicals make you do interesting things. And so I am very happy to announce that you are unable to fix a broken ladder with the bones of a dead rat. You don't have to thank me. But here's the thing, as discussed last time, every time I just give in to these lower cravings and just allow my deranged inner self to flow freely, for some reason this is exactly what I should have been doing all this time, because this rat now dropped a red bones. And for those that can actually read, or if we look a bit closer, this is a key moment in my journey through this maze, because it somehow happens to have the exact same color as these three magical doors. Quite the coincidence, I think. And then I contemplated and pondered very hard, thought it through a lot, and just walked through a random door because, well, we've been over this. But I am excited. I definitely found the answer to the first puzzle way faster than I thought, or all of my track record suggests. And all the while proving that giving in to your dopamine cravings is a good thing. It means just one thing, don't listen to them, guys. Keep scrolling on that phone. You will find the key somewhere in that feed. Pretty sure that's the lesson I draw from this. Sadly, the in-game lesson I have to draw from my let's choose a door at random is more people that didn't come out of the closet in time and are dead. It's very educational so far. More doors that lead to literal dead ends And all of that ultimately leading to only one choice, being this ladder that is very familiar. Oh, it's the boat ladder from earlier. Fantastic. The good news being, I now know what to do. Punch a bunch of rats. Or, you know what? Actually, let's get ourselves some comeback here. I mean, I have seen what's going to be happening in the first floor. Just for it to be reproduced in the second floor, I'm almost certain with all the ghosts. Also, given that things are hidden behind doors, maybe this is where I gotta grab something? Because I didn't know at the time that the guy in the prison cell was actually where you can grab something. So this was actually smart, relatively. And just like that, I make an absolute mess, littering the floor with dead rats, way too much text, but eventually a red key. And you see, we now at least know what not to... Wait. What am I doing? And this is another visual representation of my at max lukewarm IQ, because if I just would have given I don't know, a slither of a thought, I could have seen this happen way before. No question. But I guess we now note that as well. Not one of my proudest moments, that's for sure. And just like that, I make an absolute mess, littering the floor with dead rats, way too much text, but eventually a red key. And for my second attempt, I choose the right side door. I don't know why, it just felt like this is the place I should be going. And as it usually is, deciding to read some books turned out to be a massive mistake, because this is kind of the lore section of this place, as in this bookshelf we find a bunch of notes that essentially just describe some sort of Frankenstein scenario going on in here. And not only rats, or well, dead rats, are part of the problem here, it's also these ghosts that we find in the next floor of this building. The incredible puzzle master I am, I quickly see a pattern, colorful doors, opponents to kill. I might have seen this before, and I think I know what to do. Exactly, we're reading more about the lore, because so far it seems like every floor also has its own set of notes. Unsure if they are important, I read them all. I have already forgotten them by now. Some were mysterious, but it all just comes back to the Frankenstein. Or it's really just the diary of a madman. I can't tell just yet, which I now realize kind of perfectly describes exactly what I am doing here. So I'm glad that you guys are reading my notes, or are listening to them. Well, be that as it may, I really don't care for the reason why, I just kill these guys. The pattern does remain the same though. I make an absolute mess in the room until one of these guys finally drops the key. But this is where I'm changing things up for once. I actually spend some time thinking about my next course of action. I cannot believe it either, but look, it's happening right here. All of that tedious work leads me into this room and leads me up this ladder. And from the looks of it so far, maybe thinking about what you want to do is actually a thing. God, I hate that. But it turns out I got hooked and I instantly kept going, thinking about it. Impressive stuff. Because the thing with doors, there's a certain opportunity cost tied to them. Entering one door, quite naturally, excludes entering all the other doors. And so it actually happened to happen. Before mindlessly killing some more guys, I actually explored the cost of the opportunities around me, as after all, this is a maze. And if that isn't character development, well, it is. But it's the character developing through the player. Crazy. It even went as far as me admiring the cabbages that all the crazy notes talked about, and then even scouting out the place while simultaneously shooting a massive cinematic. That was the moment where I knew for sure whatever was left ahead, we will make this happen. So let's get going. My continuous efforts of figuring out the costs and the opportunities, and to be honest, whatever this whole thing is about, as we still haven't quite figured that out yet, pretty much just led me all around in circles, which, well, it might look like a step back, but it just confirmed the pattern, to be honest. Every floor has its notes, every floor has its bad guys, those are stored in the closets, then there's colored keys to the respective colored doors. But the biggest lesson from my tour, my initial thinking about it choice of door, was actually the correct one all along. And so let's repeat the pattern up here. Turns out I am still a combat genius. That was definitely not an accident. Which is not even a lie, I actually repeated this because, well, killing these guys with a bow took some time, surprisingly. But look, there's a key. And given my initial assessment and the aforementioned tour around the house, I knew that this was exactly the place I had to go. Because despite being at the very top, this leads us to a combination of ladders that brings us back to where it all started and beyond. Or below, I guess. And this is where we are instantly being attacked, something that hasn't happened so far. Also, the rooms look a little bit different, and the opponents look a bit more scary. I'm even sure that I haven't seen a level 82 opponent yet. Or well, I haven't fought one at least. So we might be breaking the pattern here, which can mean only one thing. This is the boss room. And all the tedium and thinking, it might be paying off soon. But I really need to get like an assessment of the situation, so let's stop hitting me for a bit. And so for one, there's only singled colored doors. I personally like that a lot. More importantly though, Melzar the Mad. He is right there, just one room over, which kind of explains the notes. They're just nonsense. But this is the wizard himself that has the map piece. And it surprisingly turns out you can't just cheat your way into the room from the other side. And I will soon find out why these doors are here. But I do find a chest in the end of the room, and that must be the goal, of course. But then it also turns out my earlier picked up habits of exploring, it's just bringing me back here. Which is where I now find out that literally this ladder right here would have brought you down to the boss room first thing. And I guess more reasonable players would have definitely chosen the only single ladder in this entire room that goes downwards first. So in theory, actually pretty good game design or maze design that went right over my head. Because we kind of know already that I do represent the other half of your average player base. And sadly, we are also allowed to play these games, which I am once again further proving by, well, essentially locking me out of the boss room already. So old habits die hard, I guess. But after all, that wasn't that too bad of a thing. First of all, I find a trapdoor that I spotted earlier from the, second floor or something. So that's a success. But more importantly, given the numbers that I've just spotted like a few rooms over, and we are in no way prepared for what's coming. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I have the ranged gear with me. I also bring some melee gear, because let's be honest, I have no idea what's about to happen really. But there's one of these 1 in a million proud moments happening. I remembered the demon sword. Funny enough, that was actually the first thing I associated that model with when I saw it, because it's the exact same thing than the one from Varrock. And a wise man back then told me, can only kill demons with a particular sword. So I guess I'll bring it. We'll find out if that was good or bad. And thoroughly prepared, we make our way back in. But actually, you know what? There's one thing missing, for the lore. And just like that, we were back for one last run of genocide of things that live in a maze. And it has kind of become second nature by this point. So much so that I actually didn't even realize that one rat already dropped the red key and I just kept murdering stuff. I mean, who wants to solve puzzles and doors when we can kill stuff instead? Also, remember that I told you earlier that you are locked out of the boss room once you leave through the brown doors? It was actually this moment where I pieced that together. I feel like having access to the internet should somehow be tied to an IQ test or something. Why don't we do that? Like, it is so very obvious, but, well, guess not. But then again, I had more joyous rat genocide for me in the books, and I technically have solved everything, so that little detour doesn't really matter at this point anymore. I even switched my outfit to swing at a bunch of ghosts. Unsure if that was actually the right combat style, because I'm still at this stage despite playing a lot. I still haven't fully figured this out. Then we did the skeletons once more, and eventually laddered down to bring an end to this nonsense. And I am immediately being attacked again. Not surprised, just reporting. But given my, well, let's call it extensive research that I've done prior, we are not locking us out again this time round, but rather kill the guy and get the key, bringing us to a little bit more interesting room with Melzar himself. My assessment of him being a mage guy confirmed relatively quickly, because he's not only talking all sorts of gibberish, but is also one of these guys that throws the colors at me. And then I even thought he summoned a bunch of frogs, but this is just very comedic timing actually. The moment the noob character fights the wicked guy, the frog princess event thing happens. Of course. It's good to see that the game is still mocking me. It means they care, right? Anyways, the duel of the wicked, we are definitely the stronger one. Unsure if that is something to be proud of. But I now have another key. Also, I get myself another one of these frog tokens. And just as the beautiful lady disappears, the ugly guy appears again. It's all sorts of a mess here. Even if I tried and wanted to, I couldn't have made this encounter any more chaotic as it is. And we're even topping it off with the guy summoning a cabbage. That's a nice touch for anyone that actually read the story. I didn't even have to bring mine, I guess. Anyways, to finally bring an end to this madness, and actually just as he spawned again, we thank God make it through the door. God knows what else would have happened if we kept fighting in this wicked ass room. But then again, I'm now in this room with an opponent stronger than any I've ever encountered before. And the problem is, there's only one way to find out, and that is fuck around. Or in other words, while I still was trying to prepare, the guy decided to take matters in his own hands. Or claws, or whatever. And the best part, out-leveled characters, you can't just left-click them. No, you have to right-click attack them. Precious time wasted right there. But from that point on, the beauty of a RuneScape boss fight starts to happen, where for the next minutes, you're pretty much just watching, enjoying, pondering, and definitely question all of your life's choices up to this point, while every now and then pressing the fish button in your inventory. And all of that is just to have an exciting conclusion whether you're good enough or not to beat the guy. Still don't know how much of this is up to RNG, or if I really am that bad, because I'm getting my ass handed in. But the best part is, this is only obvious after you watch for a few minutes and nothing happens. And all of this time that then allows you to think and ponder and question your life, makes you then wonder whether you were actually supposed to fight the guy, given that it's obvious that you can't beat him, and he clearly outlevels me. That's at least the noob's approach in this scenario. But given that you can't really find anything else in his room, I accepted my fate, right-clicked him once more, 2 minutes later ran out of fish, and before falling victim to this guy, I find out why they added these doors here. That's quite convenient. But all in all, it just brings me back to exactly the point I've been just a little before, once again. But finally, a worthy opponent. I did kind of deplete all of my fish icons in the process, but I have to say, the anticipation of solving a boss fight kind of beats the shopping list that we were doing up to this point. And given that me running out of food was more or less the only issue, well, there is a rather simple fix for that, isn't there? I even obtained myself a clue bottle, but that's pretty sure a story for another time, because I somehow don't want to get distracted right now. I wonder why that is. And after my culinary preparation, all that is left is pretty much the combat preparation, and we are off to give this whole thing another try. But here's the thing, while I was going through the motions of doing pretty much everything that I've already done multiple times, I definitely had some time to think and ponder and wonder, why am I struggling with this fight so much? Given that I definitely do have the recommended combat level for this, am I once again missing a major part? But most importantly, is this actually the boss fight already? The latter obviously blatantly overlooking the fact that you could technically do all of these things in any order you would like, and I just somehow miraculously managed to pull off the most climactic order possible. But funny enough, despite being ever so close, it was this point where I doubted the most that I was actually going to fight a dragon. Nor that I actually could, given that I'm already struggling with that red guy just now. But to be honest, that's my World of Warcraft brain, because there you're very scared of anything that is just a few levels above you. And now seeing a boss fight with a guy triple my level, and that technically being possible, definitely news to me. But well, speaking of, we are about to find out. First order of business, besides running at the very opposite side of the room, accidentally leveling up my prayer level, therefore reminding me that I have a prayer level. And sadly, this is the main reason why I am also using these this time around. The fact that you never need those for anything, definitely not helpful to a noob person, I can tell you that much. But now with ever the more preparation than ever before, I am chugging my potion, I'm attacking the guy, activating my religious side, and I don't know what it is. The first thing happening in this fight is actually a massive hit already. Was it the potion? Was it my clever choice of sword? Or was it the prayer activation? I actually wouldn't even know. Possibly all of the above. But it might just as likely be RNG or anything else really. All that I know is that this might actually be possible this time around. And all that is left is just the demon versus me and an army of salmon. And again, I wouldn't know how to properly replicate the excitement of clicking a guy once and then clicking a bunch of fish actually is, because saying it like that makes it really sound ironic. But one thing's definitely for sure, seeing those outline damage numbers, that's definitely doing it for me. But other than that, patience is a virtue. And left only is watching my fish supply shrink, while simultaneously the HP bar of the bad guy does. But this time around, his ran out faster than mine, which overall seems to be the essence of RuneScape boss fights so far. And as much as I am really a big fan of this half AFK, half active playstyle, if this is merely the beginning, I can't imagine what's about to happen anywhere near the endgame. For now, I'll just have to make do with the fact that I somehow figured out how to beat this guy in a actually reasonably easy fashion. Guess using the tools the game is giving you turns out to be helpful, surprisingly. But I now am the owner of the last missing map piece. And all that is left now is very obvious, really. For the last time walked through a goddamn door. Well, I already know that that isn't true. But given that I have finally, after way too many hours of gameplay, accumulated everything I need, we do combine the 3 map pieces into the original map. And apparently this is what all of this fuss was all about. Once again, mixed feelings. Which pretty much brings us to the final courses of action of finally telling Ned that I actually did do all that nonsense now. And it really just took him a sheet of paper to do it. I can already tell this is definitely the guy I need in my crew. Nothing can go wrong there, right? Which brings us to the final step, preparing my own self. Bringing pretty much absolutely everything, as I still have no idea what's about to happen next. What would be good to bring when fighting a dragon, if we are ever even fighting a dragon, and after almost missing bringing my food, which I'm not sure if that was because of excitement or being nervous, I am finally ready, as indicated by all of these red lines, and stated by my diary itself, to go to my ship and set sail for Crandor. But I somehow have this feeling I forgot something?